Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sweden Innovation Day's panel discussion on decarbonization of the cement sector. One of the ways the decarbonization of the cement sector is being done is through the framework agreement of the Leadership Group on Industrial Transition, or LeadIT. LeadIT was inaugurated in 2019 at the Climate Action Summit, and it has the objective of reaching net zero in what we understand to be hard to abate sectors, cement and steel in this case. LeadIT today has 18 country members and 20 company partners and has an objective of reaching net zero in these hard-to-abate sectors. As recently as December 2024, in COP28, 2023, we had the heads of state of Sweden and India stand in front of the COP community and say, we will walk the talk. We will make the changes needed at all levels of policy and action to come back to you in 2 years and say, here we stand, when we can actually shift the compass towards net zero. To make this happen, we have the Swedish Energy Agency, which has been given the mandate of finding best practice, developing partnerships, and creating finance options to make the shift possible. It's understood that industry will play the lead role in making the changes, but we cannot undermine the importance that correct policy and right-sized incentives can play to help industry reach their goals. To help us discuss this, we have 4 critical stakeholders in today's discussion. We have online with us in Hyderabad, K.S. Venkatgiri from the Confederation of Indian Industries, Green Building Center. And in the studio with us today, we have 3 stakeholder partners, if they'd like to join me on stage. We have Per Andersson, Stockholm Environment Institute, and the head of the Secretariat for LeadIT. We have Eric Jacobson, Chief Commercial Officer for SaltX, and Hedvig Axenberg, Supply Chain Manager for SEM Vision. I'm going to allow you to explain to our audience who you are, why you are critical stakeholders in this discussion, and what you see the future as in terms of decarbonizing cement to net zero. Eric, I'm going to start with you.
So hello, very nice to be here. My name is Eric, and I leading the commercial team at SaltX. So we are on a mission on erasing the dependency of fossil fuels in the hard-to-abate sector. And we're doing that by electrifying the core process of producing quicklime and cement, and at the same time separating out the CO2 emissions that are released in the process. So we have a vision of applying this technology all around the world in the next couple of years, and also, of course, industrializing and commercializing it with important partners, such as Dalmia Cement. We have SMA Mineral here in Sweden, and also ABB for a technology provider.
Hedvig.
Yeah, hi. So my name is Hedvig Axberg. I lead the supply chain team at SEM Vision. And SEM Vision is a pioneering company dedicated to revolutionize the cement world, you can say. So we produce ultra low carbon cement that's cost efficient, have high performance, is sustainable, and we require much lower energy consumption in the production process. So our mission is clear. We want to challenge the status quo within the cement manufacturing. And our cement, which is unique even by green standards, cut emission by 95%. And we do this by running the thermal process through electric rotary kiln. And we use upcycled waste material from other industries as our raw material. Which is promoting the circularity and also reducing heavily the need for virgin limestone. We were founded about 4 years ago. We are a team now with 15 technology experts and entrepreneurs. We have produced our cement in our demo factory in Europe, and we are aiming to ramp up production this year.
Great, so 2 stakeholders doing disruption technology to change the status quo. Giri, please.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Venkatagiri, Giri for short. I represent the CII Green Business Center. Green Business Center is a center of excellence of CII. CII is one of the oldest and largest industry associations in the country. What is our vision? Our vision is to help the Indian industry decarbonize, Indian building sector decarbonize and go towards net zero. Coming to our work with the cement sector, we have been working with the Indian cement sector in developing the first low-carbon roadmap in the year 2010. And since then, we have been working with them in terms of decarbonization. Right now, about 6 publicly listed companies contributing to a significant amount of production in India have committed to become net zero. Our vision and our goal is to help these companies in terms of facilitating and helping them to achieve this net zero goal, working with international organizations, partners from countries like Sweden, and to create an ecosystem by which this net zero goal can be achieved.
Thank you, Giri. And with that, I want to turn now to Per, Head of the Secretariat for LeadIT, and all of these are potential stakeholder partners of yours. Please tell us more.
Thank you so much, Martin. It's delightful to be here at the Sweden Innovation Days, and it's truly an inspiring company here. My name is Per Andersson. I'm the head of the Secretariat for the Leadership Group for Industry Transition, LeadIT, as presented by you just now. Our goal and vision is very clear. This sector today stands for a quarter of the carbon emissions. The cement sector alone for 70%. This is not a fringe discussion. This is the center for the entire alignment of the Paris Agreement. If we have no success in this sector, other sectors have to step out, and we don't see that. So this is crucial. The industry transition is crucial for our alignment to the Paris Agreement. We think steps have been made. We can see that the commercial sectors are moving, but nobody can do this alone. We need partnerships between countries and companies, and between companies. We believe truly that the breakthrough technology developed today has to travel much faster and wider. North to south, west to east, it just has to go faster. And to be able to do that, we really believe in partnerships. There has to be an enabling policy framework. There has to be a safe space for cooperation. There's been a lot of things to make this happen. But I'm truly inspired to be here, both the CII and Senvision and Saltex, which I think is very representative for this disruptive spirit. Thank you.
You heard this here. This is not a fringe discussion. This needs to be brought center stage if we're going to reach our global goals. And to do that, of course, India plays a critical role. India is the second largest cement producer in the world, so decarbonization efforts happening in India will impact our global decarbonization efforts. So with this, I want to come to you, Giri, because of course, to do this, industry has to be in the right space, right mindset, willing to make the changes required to take this shift. Is this a good time to be having this discussion with India?
Thanks, Arti. I think the short answer is yes. It's the appropriate time to have this discussion. And to substantiate this, yes, I would like to say this. It's a good thing that we have started with the cement sector, because Indian cement sector is one of the most forward-looking and pioneering sector, perhaps in the country and even in the world. Any new technology in cement sector, the Indian cement companies are always willing and ready to implement these new and innovative technologies. As I said earlier, 7 cement companies have committed to have net zero targets. So to all my friends, technology suppliers from Sweden, I would say Indian cement sector is a appropriate sector to start our initiatives with. And with the innovative technologies from Sweden, I think we would be able to contribute significantly towards these net zero goals.
Giri, I'd like to ask you a follow-up question to that, because of course we have LeadIT as a framework, but of course you're no stranger to the Sweden-India corridor when it comes to technology partnerships and actually building together. What are some of the key takeaways that you can share with us today about what we should keep in mind as this framework, as this partnership grows?
So one, as I said earlier, the industry is extremely positive about taking up new technologies, while simultaneously the industry is also very conscious of competitiveness and price. That's one which we need to take care. The second aspect is to all my the Indian cement companies who would be listening to this conversation. I must say our experience in the last 10, 11 years with Indo-Sweden Innovation Accelerator is that the innovation aspect of the Swedish companies with whom we have worked is substantial in the area of automation, energy efficiency, renewable energy, process technologies, and even the Saltex, which you would be presenting very shortly. So we have opportunities and technologies in each of these areas. They all would be very pivotal and can contribute easily to the decarbonization journey.
And actually with that, I will come to Saltex, because Saltex has now taken this journey with all the stakeholder partners. You have been part of the India-Sweden Innovations Accelerator. You are a member of LeadIT, and you are, in this panel today, one of the key stakeholders in a partnership with India. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, so we met with Dalma and LeadIT about the same time, a year ago, and it's been a really good journey for us, being both partner now with Dalma and a partner with LeadIT. And we are a relatively small company trying to change a traditional industry, and we need partners. LeadIT is fostering that partnership ecosystem and also guiding us in that. And I think to make something happen, we need to help each other out there.
Now, Per, you've heard Giri, you've heard Eric talk about what they want, what they need, and what they're doing. LeadIT has high ambitions, and you have multiple members. You have technology players who are small, who need support, who need help with navigating the ecosystem. You have some of the largest industry players in the world to contend with as well, and you have global government. How do you balance your different stakeholders? How do you foster innovation within a regulated economy? And how do you speak for competitiveness and price that is very important on the part of the industry buyers who want to make this change?
Thank you. It's a very good question, and one we wrap our heads around almost every day now. Our mandate is clear. The Prime Minister of Sweden and India has spoken, and there is a joint statement backing this up that in 2 years' time, in COP in Amazons in Brazil, there has to be tangible results in this sector. Tangible results in the sense of decarbonization. So once we are populating an organogrammic organization with multiple ministries on each side, we are looking with our binoculars for flagship. What is the flagship delivery at the COP stage at the very highest level? Who can be there, with whom, and what? So it's both putting a spotlight on the policies, also looking for that kind of flagship delivery that can scale up faster than we think today.
And of course, working with technology providers and solution providers like Soltex, potentially SemVision. But you say something that leads me to a very interesting next question. I'm going to come to Hedvig with this. We have 2 years, as per LeadIT's ambition, as per the heads of state that spoke at COP28 to say, we want to make change, we want to make it fast. This is not a fringe discussion. Now to do this, and we touched upon this in the introduction, we need the right policies. We need the right incentives to help companies like yours actually make the change. What are your thoughts in terms of what needs to be done on policy and regulation?
Well, I think that the regulatory framework, of course, plays a crucial role when it comes to introducing new innovative and sustainable products to the market. And it is navigating this is, of course, challenging because in a way the standards are hindering a fast introduction of new products that we actually need right here and right now. And of course, at SemVision, we respect the fact that we need to stick to these regulations and requirements in order to remain within the safety standards within construction. But we do question sometimes how they are defined. So our mission is to promote a more performance-based standards rather than component-based. We dedicate a lot of resources within R&D to ensure our products do meet the high performance that's required for the intended applications. And you know, cement is about chemistry, so there are different ways, there are different materials that you can use in the cement and push the boundaries within the cement standard systems. And in the future, we see a trend of more differentiated market where an increasing number of cement products are being introduced with different types of materials. Everything from fly ash to modified slags to calcinated clays. And all of these new types of materials needs to be addressed within the standard systems. I think it's super important. And we strive towards performance-based standards, and we need to do this together with partnerships and collaboration. So we are partnering with other strong stakeholders that believe in the same thing as us. And we actively engage also with the policymakers, regulatory bodies, and alliances that support innovation and sustainability.
I'm going to follow up on that question, and that goes to both you, Hedvig, and to Eric. Now, both of you are sitting on disruptive technology. You have a regulatory mindset that could be considered a little bit old-fashioned. and people are regulating for something they don't necessarily understand, because you're bringing something completely new with zero carbon emissions to the table. Do you feel, I'm going to start with you, Eric, and then maybe to Hedvig, that you should be in Brussels? Should the technology players be helping draft policy and not necessarily recipient of policy objectives?
Yeah, of course, that could be one part of the solution, but I think it's a broader thing than that. I totally agree with Hedvig here, but at the same time, we also need to respect that's why we have these policies, is that we don't want the houses to fall apart. So I think we need to keep some of the things that we have today and work with that. We're trying to change the core process and having the same material going out to the end customers, but at the same time trying to nudge and move the industry to be taking on new materials and try new things. I think it needs to be going in side by side, these two different tracks. But of course, we need to be there and educate the people in Brussels and in other places where they take the decisions. Yeah.
Exactly. Hedvig.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it needs to be in a caution and a controlled way to introduce new types of products to the market. And I would, to the regulators that are sitting on the standards, I would highlight that
They're over there.
we need to promote a more circularity in our society. So understanding that certain limitation may not be applicable for all products or all applications. Otherwise, valuable material, valuable to us, the waste material, could either end up in high-valued applications such as cement, rather than going to low-valued applications such as road fill or landfill. So I think that's a very important thing for the regulators to take with them. And also I would propose a more differentiated approach, a more tailored approach when introducing new types of products to the market. I believe in a gradual way of introducing products while still ensure the consistency of the performance and the quality, which is super important. And I would also, as I said before, avoid this prescription or prescribing certain amount of percentages that you need to have in a cement product in order for it to be within the standard, which is actually material that is not good for our environment. So promoting instead that the products needs to reduce the CO2 with a certain amount and also promote circularity. I think it's very important to take with when introducing new standards and writing them.
I want to take that actually now to Giri in Hyderabad, because of course standard setting and what you're hearing here is important. Regulators need to be educated, if you like, or kept informed as changes happen, but so do industry partners. They have to understand what the changes are. How do you decide best practice? How do you choose from one technology offering to another? How does CII work with this in helping the 7 companies that you mentioned in the beginning actually navigate this new technology horizon that we have before us?
Excellent question, Aarti. I completely agree with you. A paradigm shift is required for the Indian cement sector to make the best use of the latest technologies emerging. Having said that, what is the priority of Indian cement sector? These 7 companies which have committed to become net zero, and the remaining 7 or 8 which will also get committed to net zero in the days to come. They look at it from the point of view of cost competitiveness. First, you look at energy efficiency as an opportunity. This is a low-hanging fruit. Then go in for renewable energy. This perhaps could cut down about 15 to 20% of the overall emissions. Then you look at alternate fuels and electrification and renewable energy, something like the technologies which Saltex is trying to promote. This is the next alternative which the Indian cement sector is looking at. Last but not the least is the next technology of carbon capture and utilization or storage. So this is the way in which the cement sector is focusing on. What we would like to do is to help them implement the low-hanging fruits immediately and then prepare a market, make the stage ready for the advanced technologies like what Saltex is trying to promote, and also carbon capture and storage, so that we get to that in a few years to come. Implement the low-hanging fruits, make the best out of it immediately, and then prepare the ground for the bigger technologies. As they emerge, we are ready to implement it.
Excellent, Giri. So with that, I'm going to actually come to Per, because what Giri is saying is prepare the ground, take the low-hanging fruit, and understand how to work best with the new technologies that are coming up. You sit again on the Secretariat trying to navigate that pathway between these different stakeholders, between these different buyers, and of course providers, and government regulations, government to government. How does LeadIT do that? Of course, you have the Energy Agency now that has come on board to develop the partnerships, showcase best practice, investigate financing, and how will they actually work with what they find and the challenges they see ahead and the opportunities, really?
Yes. I think we have to be, the complexity of the industry transition is very high. You have to have a whole, from a government perspective, you have to have a whole of government approach. It's about innovation, it's about anything from industry policy, trade, even social policy to make a just transition. So we are working with a broad set of actors that can, both in the sense of technology breakthrough and the disruptor represented here, but I totally agree with Giri that the demand signals has to be there. We see it maybe more in the steel segment, that the demand signals are starting to be there. I would love to see the same happening in the cement and construction sector, where the demand signals are very strong for the disruptive technology to come in. Secondly, is there anything we can do? We know in some countries procurement plays a role. Is there something we can do on? And I totally agree with Hedvig and Eric as well on the standards. Very important on the global level and even on a national level. What can we do? How can we ship best practices from one country to other? What can we learn from India and Sweden and the reverse on this? So I think the value chain, standard setting, something on procurement.
So I'm going to recap because I want to come to Eric with his recent experience actually with India. Demand signals, procurement as an area to be looked at to understand that a just transition can happen. And then of course have industry come to the table. Now, I come back to Soltex because your journey and your conversation with India has been quite long. You started, as Giri mentioned, with the India-Sweden Innovations Accelerator. Have you seen a change in demand signals from when you started with what you were doing in terms of new technology to today when you have one of India's largest producers talking to you saying, yes, let's make changes together?
Yeah, I see the difference. And I think it's been a few interesting years that has been because of when we started to talk about this with these big industries, it was quite challenging, I would at least say. But now they are more mature of taking on to new both materials but also technologies. And I think that comes from the ETS system that's been around here in Europe for quite some time. But the cement industry has been free allowance, so they can be allowed to emit. But now that will come to an end in 2034, and it will start in 2026 to decrease the amount that you can emit. And I think that stressed industry, the 2034 is quite a long time there, but to change a cement factory or the way of thinking a whole this very traditional industry, it takes time, and it's not that far away. So I think it has been a really important factor for the whole world of cement. It comes from the Europe system, but I think that spreads out to the whole industry. This need for change, I would say, that we need to have.
And of course, you touch upon one of the critical components of making the change, which is financing the shift.
Yeah.
ETS is one way, but of course, Giri, you mentioned twice now CCUS being an opportunity for the cement sector, and that could be a way in which they can actually see the change and actually take advantage of the incentive. Can you tell us a little bit more about how India values and sees CCUS as a possible offering within this conversation?
Yeah, there have been a lot of interest in CCUS in the recent times, and particularly cement sector. Cement sector is one where perhaps nearly about 200 million tons of CO2 might be coming out through the chimney in each of these cement plants. This is a point source. There's a very high percentage of carbon dioxide. So this is a fit example or fit area for us to work in terms of CCUS. But we have to work out in terms of 2 or 3 things. One, what do we do with the captured carbon? Can we convert it into value-added products? That's one which has to be seen in greater detail. Financing of these projects. last but not the least, the carbon market is still restricted to the PAT sector, particularly towards energy efficiency activities. So these also need to be further expanded so that people who implement, the companies which implement CCUS also get benefited and the overall cost economics works out better.
When you have a conversation like we've seen here between Dalmia and Saltex, who are leading now this conversation, taking the first step to create a case study, do you foresee this is going to actually create an avalanche or a domino effect of other people coming forward to say, okay, we have these challenges in terms of how we can actually finance this shift, but there's actually a fundamental benefit for us taking the discussion forward? And you have Saltex and Dalmia kind of standard setting, if you like. What do you expect to see now with this discussion going forward?
Oh, very nice question, Aarti. You have exactly hit the nail on the head. Indian cement industry, once you have a successful example of something like what Saltex and Dalmia are trying to do, I'm sure it will be followed up with every other company trying to implement this technology, replicate, and this replication takes place very fast in Indian cement industry. I'm sure there will definitely be an avalanche of implementations. One, this successful case study is proven and demonstrated.
And that replication effect is not only on the side of industry, but also technology providers looking at key markets. Now, SEMVision has not been looking at India, but potentially this is somewhere, a market you will be looking at or you will be considering in terms of replication effects, in terms of good case studies setting the stage. How come India is now in your horizon?
No, but I think that India is a very interesting and market for us to look at. I mean, both from several perspectives. I mean, India has a very high developed industry, both steel and aluminum, such as Tata Steel, for example. And we believe that there is a huge amount of underutilized residual material that could be used in a much higher utilization way from a carbon perspective. So that's one perspective that we want to explore. And also, of course, that India is a huge growing market and a big consumer of cement. So coming in with our green cement, offering an alternative to this market is very exciting for us to explore more.
And I'm going to make some assumptions here. Again, Saltex, SEMVision, small players in a very, very big pool. So it's always good to have a holding hand, guidance, understanding where to go, who to talk to, what to do. CAI is definitely one of our guidance partners. And of course, then we have LeadIT. Now, SEMVision is not a member of LeadIT. Tell us, Per, how does one become a member? What is the membership structure? And what is LeadIT looking to do in terms of that?
So two parts. One is the commitment you make as a member. You have to have a scientific-based target for 2050 that you are net zero on carbon emission by then, which is, of course, now if you're a disruptive technology, it's no problem for you, I would say. We don't charge. We think if we would charge, it would be a bias for us. We had said no to potential members. We would like you to be in the debate. We would like you to have a voice. And with the strengthened and deepening partnership with India, we think we can also play a little bit of a matchmaking operational role setting this up. Because there's one thing, and you talked about finance before, is risk. And if we would see that as a normal business opportunity, and we will not do anything because of the high risk, we're forgetting about the background of the Paris Agreement and what we have to decarbonize. We don't have a choice. So we're working on how can we de-risk, how can we share risks and rewards together with our members.
De-risking innovation, I think one of the critical questions as we move forward. How do you help both sides understand what risk is, redefining risk, really, to say there are proven technologies, now how do we scale this proof? And that's something, of course, CAI is also working with on their technology partners. And we've talked a lot about technology. And of course, we have two technology solution providers. We've heard Giri from CAI talk about the need for industry partners to basically understand cost and competitiveness when it comes to technology. And as a result, work with partners like Saltex, potentially SEMVision in the future. But I actually want to ask both of you, Giri, Per, technology is one part of the equation. We all have responsibilities as consumers, as offtake, as business, as industry, to potentially change our mindset to make 2030 happen. Are we going to reach our goals with technology alone, or is there a shift that needs to happen? I'd like to hear from Per and then Giri, and if you have case studies that helps us understand how such a shift can take place.
Very good question. And we all have to change. I mean, it's a societal change, the industry transition for all of us, how we consume and how we produce. The consumer behavior plays a huge role. On the producer side, we are, from our point of view, trying to tap a little bit of a transparency on it. So if you would visit our website, you see we track the investments in green steel and green cement almost live. See where the money goes is one way to keep a tab on what's going on, and also for the informed population to make their own view on it.
And we have some great examples now coming out of Sweden that can be shared, replicated, that give reassurance to all sides of the stakeholder discussion about what can we do and what can we actually expect as a result. Giri, on the behalf of industry and behalf of the buyers in the conversation, mindset shift, what do we need to see? What are we seeing?
I completely agree with you, Aarti. A paradigm shift is perhaps required both from the industry point of view as well as the consumer point of view. One thing which CII has been trying to promote is appropriate type of cement for the appropriate usage. So instead of using some high quality, high carbon intensive cement, can be replaced with low carbon products. That's one. Secondly, from the industry point of view, I also completely agree with you. There is an opportunity to do by 2030, but in the next 10 years, the cement industry is going to double in terms of capacity in India. One major opportunity which Indian cement industry as well as the technology providers should work on is in terms of can we make this doubling in a low carbon way? Can we have, by about 2035, about 50% of the cement industry which have come up in the next 10 years, can it be green by design? Can it be low carbon by design? Can it be net zero by design? This is one side. The other aspect is, for example, in India, including cement industry, the overall electricity consumption in our energy basket is only about 17 or 18%, while in developed countries, it's of the order of about 33%. So there is a major opportunity to convert some of the fossil fuel users to electricity and then provide this usage through renewable energy. So there is a major opportunity in cement industry. Nearly about 30 to 40% of the emissions come through usage of fossil fuels, such as coal in Indian cement industry. If the experiment of Saltex is successful, or if it can be modified to meet the requirements of Indian cement industry, this 30% emissions can be cut. This should be one change in mindset, which I feel both the industry and the technology providers should have. And I'm sure we have been talking about intensity reduction some years back, but right now, every one of the cement plants is aware and wants to make a change towards net zero absolutely in the next 15 to 20 years of time. So there's a change required, but the change is also happening. So from that point of view, we are quite optimistic, and I'm sure some of the goals which we have articulated would definitely happen, and 2030 could be a good watershed year for further changes to happen. Thank you.
Gary, I'm going to come back to you actually, because when we talk about the cement industry, producing is one thing, but demand, of course, demand signals is another. Now, CII has been working with builders, right, to say, how do you educate demand? How do you showcase that changing quality does not change impact and efficacy on the ground? Tell us more about that.
India, the green building movement has taken up significantly in India. Nearly about 11 billion square feet of green buildings are coming up all over the country. And usage of low carbon materials with lower embodied carbon is one of the important criteria of this green building movement. So there has been an increase in consumption of blended cement and cement with lower carbon footprint in the building sector. And many of the large builders have slowly moved towards ready-mix concrete and usage of low carbon cement and blended cement. But this has to be accelerated. What we have done is a very small amount. This needs to be further accelerated so that from the user perspective, from the procurer perspective also, there is a push towards low carbon cement production.
Thanks, Giri. And I think what we see with this conversation is that, of course, we talk at one level at the state of nation states, and then we come down to the operational agenda, which is actually just buyers. People like you and me asking for what we need when we build houses, what we need actually when we become consumers. So the last few minutes of this panel, I want everyone to write a note on video to your future selves. What do you want to see having done by your organization, your company, but where do you want to be in March 2028? Eric, I'm going to start with you.
A good question. We have been to this journey of seeing the change in the industry from not talking about change to talking about change. And in 2028, I would see them have been happening. So walk the talk, to see a few different new cement plants or retrofits that are producing green cement, and also adapting new, of course, types of standards, etc., to make the shift happen. So by then we won't see a super big change because this takes time, but to see a few key projects that has been happening, then I will be proud. Yeah.
So walk the talk, commercial pilots, set the scene.
Yep.
Hedvig.
Yeah, but 2028, I hope there's a even higher push from both consumers and other types of industries of more green products on the market. I hope that there are even increased number of different types of cement alternative that are sustainable out on the market. And I hope by 2028 that the ETS that you mentioned before have had an effect, and also, yeah, as an extra push. And hopefully also by 2028 we have tackled this with the standardization that more performance-based. So yeah, I'm hopeful for that.
Great. So standard setting a regulated playing field, and of course, as Eric said, setting up demonstrations. Giri, what would you like to see? 2028, note to your future self.
I would be more aspirational and ambitious, Aarti. In the trade between India and Sweden is somewhere about $2.6 billion. And there has been talk about doubling it in the next 7 to 10 years of time. Can this collaboration on decarbonization, starting with the cement industry, be a significant lever towards doubling of this trade between the two countries? Can we convert it into a commercial business opportunity between the Swedish technology providers and the Indian cement plant? If a significant portion of that is done, I would be very, very satisfied. And I must tell you, the cement industry, once they see a success in one of the plants, the replication would be extremely fast. So there is a major opportunity waiting for us, both from the Sweden side as well as India side. And whatever support that's required, CII is extremely committed to working with the technology provider, the Indian cement plant, as well as the government in terms of facilitating an ecosystem by which this can happen.
Giri, and I have no less expectation from CII to really make the case and set the call to action at the right level. We need this to make sense in terms of trade numbers. We need this to not be a conversation between the converter, but actually to say this has a bottom line impact. So doubling the trade numbers actually becomes a really good litmus test that this conversation is working. March 2028, not much time to make it happen, but the trends and the changes can start. Per, you've heard the call to action. You've heard the comments from the technology disruption partners. Increase the offering, standardize the offering, walk the talk, finance the offering, and let's increase trade. Note to your future self, 2028, March. And why is that important?
I think it is a great summarize and very inspiring. Knowing that we can put a spaceship on the moon, we can, of course, do this. Of course we can do this. We have to push hard. Agreeing with Giri, Hedvig, and Eric, of course, that we can, if we meet in 5 years' time, it's 2028, India has a candidacy for COP 33. Is in 28. So if the five of us meet again, I hope we are preparing for that. And then it's no longer demonstration sites or pilot in a small scale. It's a new mature market that people take for granted in 5 years' time. That's what I'd like to see.
And talking about that change in panels like this, working with technology partners like the ones you have today, and of course your membership base, allows us to push for that change. And you become, LeadIT becomes kind of that net that captures what's happening and allows us to also see, you say your transparency trackers, how we can actually understand this change. So March 2028, we will be back here, ladies and gentlemen, to talk about how this change has been enabled. And of course, we have heads of state also committing to come in front of the community and say, when you walk the talk, when you set policy, when you finance innovation, when you incentivize innovation, change can really take place, and drastic change. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today at the Sweden Innovation Days to talk about how to decarbonize cement and meet some of the key stakeholders that will make this change possible. Thank you so much.